I was an ordinary man living on the edge of Monongahela National Forest, West Virginia. My name is Jake, I'm 32 years old, and I work as a park ranger. That fateful night under a brilliant full moon, while patrolling the quiet trails, something deep within me stirred. A distant, eerie howl shattered the calm, and I felt an inexplicable pull, as if an unseen force was drawing me into darkness. Little did I know that my encounter with a creature of ancient legend would forever mark my soul. The night started like any other shift, but an unsettling chill quickly overtook me as I wandered deeper into the forest. The trees whispered secrets in the wind, and every snap of a twig sent my heart racing. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I wasn't alone. Shadows seemed to move with purpose, and a sense of foreboding gripped me. I told myself it was just my imagination, yet the silence felt too heavy, as if nature itself was warning me. I pressed on, determined to complete my rounds despite the mounting fear. The moon's glow painted eerie patterns on the forest floor, and I found comfort in the familiar paths of West Virginia's wildlands. Still, an inexplicable dread followed me, tightening like a noose with every step. Memories of old local legends about cursed nights and vengeful spirits echoed in my mind, making the dark woods appear even more sinister. Then came the sound. A deep, guttural roar that shattered the stillness. I stopped dead in my tracks, frozen, in terror. The roar wasn't animalistic, but carried a human-like sorrow and rage. I felt my pulse thundering in my ears, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my flashlight, desperate to illuminate the unknown terror lurking ahead. As I inched forward, each breath became a battle between logic and primal fear. My thoughts raced back to old warnings from local elders who spoke in hushed tones of a curse born from an ancient evil. The forest, known for its rugged beauty, now felt like a labyrinth of nightmares. I recalled tales of a creature, half man, half beast, whose eyes burned like embers in the night. With every step, the legend came alive around me. I finally saw it, a massive silhouette moving with an eerie grace among the towering pines. The creature's presence was undeniable, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. The air grew thick with tension, and even the wind appeared to hold its breath. I couldn't help but feel that I was caught in a real-life horror story, one that had been whispered about in every small town in America. My heart hammered as I realized that the creature was drawing near. In that instant, all my skepticism vanished. I could see in the moonlight, eyes that glowed like burning coals fixed upon me. The beast's snarl was both a warning and a promise of the pain it could unleash. I wanted to run, but my body betrayed me, leaving me rooted to the spot. The line between myth and reality blurred, and I knew I was trapped in a nightmare I could neither escape nor fully comprehend. The creature lunged forward, and in that heart-stopping moment, I braced myself for the impact. The encounter was surreal. My mind raced to reconcile the real terror before me with the legends of my childhood. Each breath felt like a frozen shard of ice as I tried to step back, only to be caught in the creature's overwhelming aura. In that instant, my world transformed into a battleground where fear and survival collided. I stumbled through the forest, desperate to put distance between myself and the relentless predator. The dense American woods became a maze of twisted branches and looming shadows. I could hear my own frantic heartbeat echoing against the silent trees as the creature's growls reverberated through the night. Memories of quiet days at the ranger station turned to distant recollections as I raced against time and fate, wondering if I'd ever see the sunrise again. Hours later, as the forest finally grew still, I collapsed beside a gnarled oak. The moon, now hiding behind restless clouds, seemed to mock my fragility. I was drenched in sweat, my body trembling with shock and exhaustion. In that eerie stillness, I realized that the curse had taken root within me, marking the beginning of a nightmare that would follow me through every subsequent full moon. As days turned into a haze of anxiety and dread, I struggled to return to normal life. The incident left a haunting imprint on my mind, and every shadow reminded me of that monstrous gaze. In the quiet corners of small West Virginia towns, whispers of my encounter began to surface. Neighbors exchanged uneasy glances, as rumors of a cursed ranger circulated. I couldn't shake the sense that the beast was watching, waiting for the next full moon to strike again. I attempted to rebuild my routine, working long hours at the ranger station and patrolling familiar trails. Yet, the terror lingered like a dark cloud overhead. My nights were tormented by vivid dreams of snarling jaws and blazing eyes. I would wake in cold sweats, convinced that the creature was lurking just outside my window. The once beautiful landscape of my homeland had turned into a realm of nightmares and impending doom. One evening, while preparing my gear for another shift, I found a note slipped under my door. The message was scrawled in shaky handwriting, warning me of an ancient curse that linked my fate to that dreadful encounter. The note mentioned specific details about the forest and even hinted at a ritual passed down by local tribes. I was left questioning everything I knew about the legends and my own destiny as the full moon crept closer with its ominous glow. The final full moon arrived with a haunting brilliance that lit up the American wilderness. I could feel the curse pulsing within me, a relentless reminder of that dreadful night. In a desperate bid to break free, I returned to the very heart of the forest where the encounter had occurred. The trees, heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay, welcomed me like old bitter friends. Every rustle and distant howl intensified my inner torment, making it hard to separate reality from nightmare. As I ventured further, the forest revealed secrets hidden in plain sight, a circle of ancient stones and symbols carved deep into weathered bark. I recalled the note's mention of tribal rituals and a possible cure. With trembling hands, I began to trace the symbols, hoping to summon some force to lift the curse. The night grew colder, and every heartbeat echoed with the weight of centuries-old legends. I could almost hear the murmurs of those who had come before, warning me of the peril of meddling with the unknown. In a final moment of defiant courage, I chanted softly, trying to break the chain of terror that bound me. The ground quivered beneath my feet, and an unearthly wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it voices from the past. Whether the curse would be lifted or deepen my torment, I could not tell. All I knew was that my life was forever intertwined with the howl of the beast, a truth I would carry in every fearful full moon that followed. My name is Dylan, a 34-year-old park ranger working in the rugged beauty of the Appalachian Mountains. One cool, quiet night, I set out on a simple stroll along a familiar trail near Roanoke, Virginia. I felt calm until an eerie silence fell over the woods, and a strange pain began to stir deep within me. That night, under the glow of a full moon, everything changed. I was attacked by something not quite human, a force that turned my life into a constant battle between man and monster. I started my night as I always did, patrolling the forest trails with my flashlight and the comforting sounds of nature. The crisp air and gentle rustle of leaves made it seem like any other evening in rural Virginia. But as I walked further into the dense woods, an unsettling feeling crept up on me. Every shadow seemed to hide a secret, and each step I took felt heavier than the last. I tried to brush off the fear, reminding myself of the old legends passed down in these parts. Yet deep down, I felt that something was waiting for me. I pressed on, determined to complete my shift despite the growing unease. The full moon shone brightly, casting long dancing shadows on the forest floor. I could almost hear faint whispers carried by the wind, as if the trees themselves were telling ancient tales of curses and transformation. My heart began to beat faster when I noticed strange marks on the bark of a large oak, marks that resembled claw scratches. I felt a mix of curiosity and dread, knowing that nothing in life comes without a price. Then, out of nowhere, a piercing cry shattered the silence. It was a howl that seemed to come from both the earth and the sky, echoing with a sorrowful fury. I stopped in my tracks, my breath caught in my throat. That cry was no ordinary animal sound. It was a sound of deep pain and rage. In that terrifying moment, I realized that the legends were true. My life was about to change in a way I could never have imagined. Barely had I recovered from that first shock when I saw it, a massive, hulking figure emerging from behind the trees. My mind raced as I struggled to understand what I was witnessing. The creature moved with a wild grace, its eyes glowing like burning coals in the moonlight. I could see its distorted features clearly, fur matted with dirt and a snarl that hinted at a deep, unspoken torment. I wanted to run, but my legs felt rooted to the spot, as if the ground itself held me captive. The creature lunged, and in a blink, I was caught in a brutal struggle. The pain was searing, and I felt my body contort in ways I never knew possible. Every cell screamed in agony as something inside me began to change. I fought with every ounce of strength, but the beast was relentless. In the chaos, my senses blurred between the reality of the attack and the horrors of an ancient curse. I could feel the dark energy wrapping around my soul, pulling me into a world where the human and the beast were no longer separate. When the assault finally subsided, I lay trembling on the cold forest floor. The full moon bore silent witness to my transformation, a change that was as physical as it was spiritual. I was in pain, not only from the wounds on my body, but from the realization that I no longer belonged to the world of men. The agony of that moment left me with a haunting awareness that my nights would never be the same. I had been marked, and from that night on, every full moon would remind me of the terrible price I had paid. In the days following the attack, my life turned into a quiet battle against an inner darkness. I tried to hide the scars, both visible and hidden, as I returned to my duties as a park ranger. Yet, every time the moon began its slow climb in the sky, I felt the stirrings of that cursed transformation. The pain was like a shadow that crept over me, whispering of the monstrous nature now locked inside. I spent sleepless nights researching old local lore and talking quietly with elders who remembered similar curses from long ago. During one particularly restless night, I revisited the scene of the attack, hoping to find answers among the silent trees. The forest felt different now, more alive and watchful, as if it harbored secrets that I was not meant to learn. I noticed symbols carved into rocks near a small clearing, symbols that matched descriptions from ancient native legends. Each mark, every rustle of leaves, deepened my fear and curiosity. I began to wonder if this curse could ever be broken or if I was doomed to live with this unbearable duality. As the full moon approached once more, I prepared myself for the inevitable transformation. I armed myself with a mix of hope and despair, determined to find a way to control the beast inside. The night was thick with tension as I stepped back into the forest, feeling both a part of it and utterly alienated by it. Every step felt like a descent into a nightmare, where the lines between pain, power, and primal fury blurred together. I knew then that the battle was not only with the creature that attacked me, but with the monstrous force growing within. The night of the next full moon arrived with a bitter chill that cut through my skin. I had spent the previous days seeking help from an old friend in town, a kind soul who had grown up with these haunted legends. He shared tales of curses and rituals, urging me to embrace my fate if I could not defeat it. Yet, deep inside, I knew that surrender was not an option. The man I once was slipping away, replaced by something wild and dangerous. I walked into the woods with a heavy heart, each step resonating with both fear and reluctant acceptance. Deep within the forest, I found a clearing encircled by ancient stone markers. These stones, weathered by time, seemed to pulse with a life of their own. I remembered the advice that old rituals might help in taming the beast, even if just for with shaking hands, I attempted to recreate the ritual, reciting words I barely understood but felt compelled to say. The air grew thick, and an unearthly wind stirred the fallen leaves around me, carrying echoes of voices from a forgotten past. In that moment, the forest became a living witness to my inner turmoil. The ritual did not drive the curse away, but it did awaken something within me. The pain of transformation was now intermingled with a strange sense of power. I felt the beast stirring inside, its hunger and anger locked in a perpetual struggle with my fading humanity. With every howl from the distant mountains, I knew that my life was a constant dance on the edge of sanity. I walked back to civilization with the heavy burden of my curse and the stark knowledge that each full moon would force me to confront the terror within. On the fateful night when the moon shone at its brightest, I returned to the very place where my life had been shattered. The forest was dark and silent, as if holding its breath in anticipation of the transformation. I stood in the clearing among the ancient stones, determined to face the monstrous side of me head-on. The pain began, again, a searing reminder of the curse that had claimed my soul. I could feel my heart pounding, my muscles twisting as the beast tried to break free. In that moment, the struggle inside was more violent than ever. I screamed in agony and defiance, battling the dual forces of man and monster. The pain was overwhelming, but so was the fierce will to survive. I clutched at the symbols on the stones, feeling as if they could anchor me to the fading remnants of my humanity. The forest around me roared with the sounds of 1,000 unseen spirits, and the night seemed to vibrate with ancient energy. It was a raw, brutal fight between the person I once was and the creature that now lived within me. As the transformation peaked, I reached a moment of strange clarity. I realized that I must learn to live with this curse, to find balance between the human heart and the savage spirit inside. The howl of the full moon had become my constant companion, a reminder of the pain and power entwined in my soul. I left. The clearing that night forever changed. A man marked by a terrible fate, doomed to wander the line between light and darkness with every cycle of the moon. My name is Ethan, and I live in a small Maine town where eerie legends are as common as the whispering pines. On full moon nights, fear grips every heart when people vanish without a trace. One restless evening, curiosity led me into the dense forest behind our town. Following unusual markings on the ground, I encountered a nightmare made flesh, a werewolf with a gaze so fierce it seemed to burn into my soul. From that moment on, every step I take is shadowed by the memory of that terrifying encounter. The night began like any other in our quiet Maine town, with a cool breeze and the gentle hum of nature surrounding me as I set out on my routine walk. I had grown up hearing whispered tales of mysterious vanishings on full moon nights, but I had always dismissed them as mere stories. That evening, however, a strange feeling tugged at my mind. The forest, usually a place of calm and reflection, seemed to pulse with an unseen energy. The moon hung low and bright in the sky, casting long shadows that danced on the ground as if they were alive. I noticed peculiar marks etched into the soft earth and on the bark of ancient trees. These marks were not made by any animal I knew. They felt deliberate, almost as if someone, or something, had intended to leave a message. Determined to uncover the truth behind these odd signs, I ventured deeper into the thicket, my heart pounding with a mix of fear and excitement. The further I walked, the heavier the silence became, as though the forest itself were holding its breath. Every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig sent shivers down my spine. The cool air carried an eerie stillness that clung to my skin, and I couldn't shake the thought that I was not alone. I recalled the local legends told around campfires, stories of cursed nights and a monstrous creature roaming under the full moon. With every step, my imagination began to blur the line between myth and reality, and a growing dread settled deep in my bones. Then, without warning, a distant howl pierced the night's silence, a sound so chilling that it froze me in place. The cry was not the simple call of a wild animal. It was layered with a haunting sorrow and raw anger that resonated with every fiber of my being. I stood still, barely daring to breathe, as the sound echoed around the trees. In that moment, I realized that the legends were not just bedtime stories. The forest was alive with a dark secret, and I was about to become a part of it. My heart hammered in my chest as I braced myself for what I might find next. In the eerie glow of the full moon, I pressed on with trembling determination, each step taking me deeper into the unknown. The marks on the trees grew more frequent, forming a trail that beckoned me forward like a sinister invitation. My mind raced with questions. Who or what had left these signs? Could the old legends be true? The forest, with its towering pines and whispering winds, seemed to murmur secrets of ages past. As I followed the trail, the atmosphere grew thicker, the air almost tangible with fear and anticipation. I recalled stories of lost souls and monstrous hunters that roamed these woods, and every sound now took on a new, ominous significance. Before I knew it, a large clearing unfolded before me, bathed in the silver light of the moon. In the center, among the fallen leaves and scattered branches, I saw deep scratch marks on the ground and the remnants of something unnatural. The marks appeared to be made by claws, large and savage, leaving behind a pattern that spoke of a fierce and relentless predator. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst from my chest, and my every instinct screamed to flee. Yet, curiosity pushed me onward, compelling me to observe every detail. I crouched to get a closer look, trying to piece together the horror that lay behind these signs. As I absorbed the dreadful scene, a movement at the edge of the clearing caught my eye, a sudden shift among the trees that defied explanation. I squinted into the darkness, and for a brief, terrifying moment, I saw a glimmer of fur and a pair of eyes that shone with a predatory light. The creature's presence was overwhelming, and I could feel its gaze boring into me, as if marking me as its next victim. A cold sweat broke out across my skin as I realized that the legends were far from myths. I stood frozen, caught between the urge to run and the paralyzing grip of fear, as the silence of the forest deepened into an oppressive dread. I tried to retreat, to escape the clearing and the malignant force that lurked within it, but my legs betrayed me. The sound of my own heartbeat thundered in my ears as I stumbled backward, every step a struggle against the pull of the unknown. The forest around me seemed to close in, the trees leaning like silent sentinels, and the moon's glow cast twisted shadows that taunted my every move. I could feel my pulse in my ears, a constant reminder of my vulnerability in the face of something so monstrous. The air grew colder and heavier, and every instinct urged me to run, yet I was transfixed by the presence that haunted the clearing. In that moment of terror, the creature emerged fully from the darkness, a hulking figure, with eyes that burned like embers. Its fur bristled in the moonlight, and its snarl was a guttural sound that reverberated through the silent woods. I felt a surge of primal fear, one that made my blood run cold and my thoughts scatter like leaves in a storm. The beast moved with a terrifying grace, every muscle rippling under its wild, untamed body. I stood frozen, caught in a nightmarish tableau where time itself seemed to slow as the creature approached with deliberate menace. Every fiber of my being screamed in protest, yet I could neither move nor scream. As the distance between us closed, I could see the raw, savage power in its eyes, a look that conveyed both hunger and a deep, ancient sorrow. It was as if the creature was not only a hunter, but also a prisoner of a cruel fate. The realization struck me hard. I was face to face with the very embodiment of the curse that had haunted my town for generations. In that frozen moment, terror and fascination collided within me. I knew that nothing would ever be the same after this encounter, and that the beast's mark had been etched not only on the land, but deep within my soul. The days that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and harrowing recollections of that fateful encounter. I could not shake the memory of the beast's glowing eyes or the echo of its haunting snarl that still rang in my ears. Determined to understand the mystery, I began investigating local archives and speaking with the town's oldest residents. They told me of a long-forgotten curse, a legend passed down through generations, warning of a creature that emerged with the full moon to claim its prey. Every conversation, every faded document deepened my dread, yet I felt compelled to unravel the truth behind the myth. The more I learned, the more I realized that my life was now intertwined with that dark history. Returning to the forest became both a necessity and a torment. I needed answers, but the path was fraught with terror. With each step on the familiar trails, I felt as if I was walking on the edge of a knife. The forest, once a sanctuary of peace, now exuded an oppressive malevolence. I began marking my route and taking careful notes, trying to piece together clues that might explain the curse and, perhaps, offer a way to break it. The haunting presence of the werewolf lingered in every shadow, and every rustle of leaves whispered a promise of impending doom. I could feel its presence stalking me, not just in the woods, but even in the recesses of my dreams. One night, as the full moon ascended to its peak, I returned to the clearing where the marks were most vivid. The silence was suffocating, and the cold air seemed to carry the voices of the past. I knelt beside a set of claw marks carved deep into the earth, tracing them with trembling fingers as I recalled the terror of that night. The forest around me pulsed with an unspoken menace, and I knew that I was being watched. In that moment of solitary dread, I resolved to confront the curse head-on, even if it meant facing the beast that haunted my every step. On the night of the next full moon, fear and determination warred within me as I prepared for what I knew was inevitable. I armed myself not with weapons, but with knowledge and the desperate hope that I could break free from the curse. The forest was silent as I made my way back to the clearing, where every rock and tree seemed to bear witness to the horror of the past. The moonlight turned the landscape into a stage for nightmares, and I could almost feel the weight of countless lost souls urging me to flee. But I stood my ground, determined to confront the terror that had invaded my life. As I reached the center of the clearing, the air trembled with a preternatural energy. From the depths of the shadows, the beast emerged again, its eyes blazing with an almost human intensity, its form both monstrous and tragically sorrowful. I could see the anguish in those burning orbs, as if the creature was trapped in a cycle of eternal suffering. The moment stretched, heavy and laden with the burden of destiny. My heart pounded as I met its gaze, and for a brief second, time seemed to stop. I felt an overwhelming sense of both dread and pity, realizing that this curse was not a simple act of nature, but a profound tragedy. In that final confrontation, the boundaries between hunter and hunted blurred completely. The werewolf lunged with ferocious speed, and I barely managed to evade its snapping jaws. In the ensuing struggle, I felt an inexplicable connection, as if our fates were intertwined by the cruel hands of destiny. Every fiber of my being screamed to survive, yet a part of me longed for an end to the relentless terror. As I finally broke free from its grasp, the creature retreated into the darkness, leaving me shaken and forever changed. That night I understood that the curse was both a punishment and a sorrowful legacy, a burden I would carry long after the moon had faded.